The first thing we have to marvel at on some level is Jokic. Right? I understand that LeBron's 40 becomes the focal point, and especially when he says, hey, I got to think about this thing in terms of does he really want to play next year? But Jokic had another triple-double. Obviously, people are going to point out the 1-foot three-pointer. The one I would talk about, which is he was exhausted, and he was struggling to get by Anthony Davis, but the last bucket, they gave him the basketball, and nothing was stopping him. And he made a huge bucket to score, put them ahead, and they never relented, never gave up the lead. Here's Mike Malone, his head coach, talking about Jokic.
You talk about Nikola. I always think about this and laugh because that first summer league in Vegas, 300 pounds, out of shape. Hey, he's a nice player. No one. And if anybody tells you different, they're full of if no one ever could have seen that he'd be a two-time MVP, passing Wilt Chamberlain, it seems like every other night.
Well, that part is true. Right? That part's true. Everybody wants to take credit like, oh, yeah, I saw it. I knew it. Like, no. Jokic has amazing hands. You guys notice that? And by hands, I mean, like, anytime there's a rebound, if he gets a hand on it, he holds on to it. I mean, it's a skill that can't really be taught. Here's Malone talking more about Jokic.
I already know he's a great player. I think people have short-term memory. He wasn't this player his first year, his second year. I think he's shown other people nationally that he's real. What he's doing is real. The MVPs are real. The triple-doubles are real. All the narratives, the silly narratives this year are just that, silly and somewhat ignorant. And I think Nikola has gone through 3 rounds now where he's averaging a triple-double in the playoffs. Have you seen any stat padding out there? I'm serious. Like enough of the silliness. Like, the guy is a great player. Give him his damn respect. Stop chopping him down at the knees, man. He's a great player, and give him the respect he deserves.
All right, now what everyone's talking about now is LeBron talking about the possibility of retirement. Here's what he said that raised eyebrows afterwards.
We'll see what happens going forward. But I don't know. I got a lot to think about, to be honest. And just for me personally, going forward with the game of basketball, got a lot to think about.
Here's LeBron when he was asked about his previous desire to play with Bronny.
I've done what I had to do in this league, and my son is going to take his journey, and whatever his journey, however his journey lay out, he's going to do what's best for him. And as his dad, and his mom Savannah, and his brother and sister, we're going to support him in whatever he decides to do. So, just because that's my aspiration and my goal doesn't mean it's his. So, and I'm absolutely okay with that. My job is to support my son in whatever he wants to do.
Now that is big. That is big. Because I can tell you, this is my belief. Like, if LeBron's not in the league with the desire to play with his son, Bronny James is not a one and done. Absolutely not a one and done. At this stage. Okay? And how it will be relayed on social media when we post this is Gottlieb's a hater. Classic Gottlieb hating on LeBron. Like, no. Couldn't be further from the truth. He's not a top 10 prospect in the NBA draft. He's not a top 10 incoming freshman to USC. He's not even the best freshman going to USC. And traditionally, especially recently, it's really hard to win with young players. Right? He didn't have a great year. Not even sure you would say for the hype he had a good year at Sierra Canyon. He wasn't a top 5, borderline top 10 player in his high school league. Now, it might be the best league in the country. And the team that ultimately ended his high school career beat them 4 times. That's Notre Dame, Sherman Oaks. They have Mercy Miller is a junior. That's Percy Miller's son, right? And then you have Caleb Foster's going to Duke, and Dusty Stromer, who's going to Gonzaga. And he was not one of the 3, maybe even 4 best players on the court at times when he was playing against them. So this is a reality. And it might be interesting if Bronny at some point they had a real conversation of like, hey, Dad, like I might want to stay in college a couple years. I might not be ready. Or maybe somebody's advised LeBron that like, look, dude, you're going to force it. And if you force it and he makes the league that way, he's never going to be able to be his own man and he'll never be respected in the league as opposed to making it on his own. I think that's a real discussion. And I think that LeBron is, look, you caught a guy when he's really tired. What do they tell you? Never shop when you're hungry, okay? And never make bigger comments when you're really tired. Have you ever not slept? And then the next day you're just kind of out of your mind. You're a little bit edgy with things that you say. It's not that LeBron hadn't slept, but like he'd been there since 4. Dude put up 30 in the first half. Then they lose. Doesn't get a lot of help around him. I'm like, man, I don't know. I can do this again. Like, we got to go and maybe a little bit of it is in order to win a championship, he's going to have to acquiesce to a Kyrie. Kyrie's a great player, but he's a lot. A lot of these guys are a lot. I think looking at surgery, not knowing what that looks like when he gets back, probably has to have a little foot surgery done. Like all of that feels daunting, feels exhausting. And you just dropped 40. And though the last 2 shots were his fault, you can't say that you put the loss on LeBron, considering how well and how long he played and how efficient he was, considering all that. I don't know. I don't. He's not going to another team. It's not just because he's under contract for another year plus a player option. It's, his son and daughter, Bryce and his daughter, are at Campbell Hall. Bronny's at USC. If he's not playing for the Lakers, he's not playing basketball. But I think a lot of this has to be whether it's a conversation with Bronny or a conversation with people around him, or he's a smart enough dude to go like, man, I don't know. Like, I'm going to have to go play another year and another thing in the playoffs, and I've kind of accomplished what I need to accomplish, and it'd be really hard for me to win another title at 39. Like his body is broken down each of the last, with the exception of being in the bubble, his body's broken down every year he's been with the Lakers. Like at some point, like I kind of might have had enough. I think it's a real conversation. But I also think then you sit back and you're LeBron James. You're going to want and deserve some sort of farewell tour, right? And then the question is, do you want to play with Bronny? The other thing that playing does, and this is a real thing, is if you're not playing, you can watch every game. You can watch them both play every game. And that is time you will not get back. This show is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save. Progressive.com. Buyer, what do you think?
On what he does, or
yeah, well, first on the comments.
I'm not surprised at the comments, but I also do want to give him the benefit of the doubt in saying everyone is able to change their mind if there comes to a certain point where maybe something is more important to him than it was before. I'd like to at least give that to LeBron, even though I think we are all cynics in our head saying, this is a guy that is trying to make headlines or become the story for the next 4 months. He's 38, 39, midlife is hitting. I think that it's fair to give him that. I think in the end, he'll end up playing for the Lakers next season and then determining what he does in the future. But not surprised that there was a sort of cryptic message, which also takes away a little of the fact that they were swept by the Nuggets. Yes. We're not as much talking about that. But I don't want to be such a cynic to be like, you know what, the guy's in his late 30s, he's approaching 40. I've been there. Certain things pop in your mind. Maybe things aren't as important as they were. Certain things are more important. But to have a cryptic message like this, not necessarily shocked, to say the least.
What do you think, Jay Stu?
Yeah, I think it's on brand for him to do something like this. Like, whether it's intentional or not, him saying that did exactly what Dan says. We're not talking about the sweep. We're not really talking about the Nuggets as much. And it gets us, at least for one more news cycle, talking about LeBron now that he's out of the playoffs. I think that LeBron does not retire because of a couple things. I think he's too vain to want the very last image of him on a basketball court, him driving to the basket and not even able to get the ball above his head.
The previous shot didn't hit the rim either.
Right. I don't think he wants to go out like that. I mean, not everyone could go out like, I don't know, John Elway or even Jordan when he retired the first time, hitting that last shot over the Jazz. But, like, I don't think his final vision or his final image, I don't think he wants it to be that, you know?
Doug, do you think he should have threw the ball out to, I mean, I know this is hindsight, but there was talk about
Anthony Davis
being wide open and the outside. Do you think he should have thrown the ball out?
I had a problem with a bunch of stuff. I don't know why DAngelo Russell wasn't in the game. There's something called an implied threat. And I know that Dennis Schroeder had hit 3 threes in the game, but the implied threat is just because DAngelo Russell hasn't hit anything in the playoffs, you're still going to go and guard him as if he's DAngelo Russell, right? Whereas Schroeder doesn't provide nearly that threat. Yeah, I mean, I think most basketball players, you get in there's 2 guys, you 1-2 stop, reverse pivot, fire it out. Anthony Davis got a wide open shot, similar to one he made in the bubble a couple years ago. But this is also who LeBron is, where he's just always been able to play bully ball and get to the rim. I thought the shot before was embarrassingly bad, 3.8 seconds to go, and he just fires up a 1-foot fadeaway and hits all backboard, kind of like Westbrook used to with the Lakers. Thought that was a bad one. But I think that what you're getting at, John, is like there are some parts of his game which have always had holes, and there's actually, even though there are parts of his passing, he's obviously very, very good. And, defensively throughout his career, he was pretty good yesterday when he wasn't exhausted, but defensively he's been very good. But there's fundamental parts of his game which he just never worked on, never had to. Posting up, for example, he didn't post up in the second half. I don't think at all after dominating parts of the first half by posting up. I think part of that is fundamental parts of his game which have always been missing. And he's never had a good pivot game at all. And a little bit also is, I don't think he's reacting to the narrative, but we've been, Skip's been screaming for years for him, to not have the clutch gene. And so he kind of tried to force it and show us twice, and it was bad. That part isn't how he's always played. He's always made the right play. Neither of those 2 shots were the right play.